Good morning. It's about 9:40 in the morning, so let's get started. My name is John C. Smith. I'm the chair of the Recreation and Parks Commission, and I want to welcome you to the first workshop for the next Santa Monica Recreation and Parks Master Plan. 1997 was our first one. That's right. And it's an exciting time. I mean, we have a great turnout here. About 10 days ago, Monday night, we were in this room about the Memorial Park plan. And I think we're beating it. So I think some of your friends are here, or some of your friends are still in bed. And here you are to shape our park system for the next 20 years. I'd like to introduce a couple people here. Deborah Cohen is one of my fellow commissioners on the Recreation and Parks Commission. Deborah Cohen. Clap for her, yeah. Lori Brown's over there with a cup of coffee. She's the vice chair of the Recreation and Parks Commission. Karen Ginsberg is our director of Community and Cultural Services. She's waving to us. There's about 20 staff people that I've come to know over the years, and they're all here working hard for you. Do we have any council members here? Well, you know what, that's fine too. Anyways, those guys work hard. I mean, you know, they have to show up at everything. 1997 was the last plan, and this is the plan that's going to set us apart for the next 20 years. 2040. When I hear the words 2040, I just hope I'm around in 2040 to see what we've come up with today. We've done a lot in those 20 years. We now have a big swim center over there at FSMC. We have an airport park we didn't have 20 years ago. And there's an and there's an airport park expansion. And you'll notice the people in the green shirts, they're the airport to park people. It could be the greatest park in Southern California eventually in a few years if we do our jobs here today. So we have an Annenberg Beach House. We have pickleball now. I didn't know what pickleball was until about 3 years ago in this room, and 20 people showed up saying, we want pickleball courts, and now we have them. Anyways, I don't want to take a lot of your time. It's an exciting time. Some of the things that we worked on many, many years, like the Civic field, is this close to becoming reality. The Memorial Park plan, people have been talking about that for 10, 15 years. We're working on the Memorial Park plan, and it still needs a little work. The airport park expansion is ready to go. It's beautiful. It will triple the number of fields for our kids and for people to play, but we have to find a way to fund it. And we have some people want to build a downtown park at 4th and 5th in Arizona on public land. We have a lot of work to do, and we have some challenges too. There's homelessness and safety in some of our parks. Those aren't just crime, and public safety aren't just city issues, they're parks issues. So we have to address those as well. And you guys have to tell the city what you want in terms of parks and recreation and fun and play for your kids, for yourselves. This all begins today, where we design the parks and recreation for Santa Monica in the next 20 years. It's more than just a plan. It's a roadmap to make that plan happen and find ways to pay for it and ways to accomplish it. A couple housekeeping items. If you don't know, the restrooms are down this hall to the right. There's coffee and food back there. Please check in. Sign up for the emails so you can get the emails of the progress as we go along. This is going to take a while. And I want to turn things over to Daniel Isofano from MIG. Thank you, Daniel.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's give John and the Rec and Park Commission a big round of applause for their leadership. Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Isofano. I'm one of the founding principals of MIG. We are parks and recreation planners and designers, among other things, and we are absolutely delighted and honored to be working with you and the entire Santa Monica community on this 20-year master plan park update. We're going to be dimming the lights here momentarily and going through a presentation on some of the key findings that have come up to the top as a result of our massive community engagement and outreach that started earlier in this year, 2018. But I want to stress that we're still at the very beginning of the process. We've got another year to go, so we're not making any final decisions by any means. We're going to keep this dialogue and this conversation around the community going for quite a while. And there'll be lots more opportunities in meetings like this or on the web for online, for more pop-up and other activities to make sure we get all the ideas put into this master plan. So as John said, a lot has been accomplished. You've done so much. I remember helping out here in the community during early on Civic Center master planning. Now we have a huge, giant, beautiful park there. The airport sessions were fantastic, and you've done amazing things to get to the point of having an airport turn into a park. Not too many communities can claim that. So again, let's congratulate this community for making all that happen. I think it's a really great accomplishment. So we're going to dim the lights. I'm going to go through what we've heard from the community, all of you. No doubt we'll recognize some of your words, hopefully. But there's been a lot of outreach. Probably over 2,000 people so far have participated, and we'd like to keep increasing that number. We're going to have some interactive group discussions to give you a chance to add more ideas and to hopefully validate what we've heard and make sure we haven't missed anything. And we've got some really good table facilitators lined up. City staff are here to assist you with that process. As John said, we're working on the 97 original plan. We're here to make this update to take us on to 2040. And the plan itself will encompass programs, recreation, facilities, the beach, open space, the way in which we manage parks, as well as funding. So that's the scope of the plan document that we are all here together today to work on and to advance forward. The plan schedule, just to indicate that's where we are right here, Community Workshop 1, but we expect to have a plan sometime late summer, early fall 2019. So we got a good ways to go. So what we have heard so far and who we've heard from, you'll see here in quick fashion a lot of information. I'm going to go and highlight some of the main points, but all of this will be up on the website for downloading, for printing, and we will also have additional opportunities for people who could not make it this Saturday to do the exact same workshop again and to be able to continue this participation that we're doing today. So we've had a series of community interviews. We've talked to a lot of organizations and key agencies that help in some way contributing to the park and recreation system. We've had what we call pop-up workshops, very popular and very nice way to engage people in their day-to-day activities. We've had the think tank out there, which, by the way, the think tank is right there by the door. That Soma tube is where you can deposit more ideas, and there's a card system for that. We've had interactive bingo. We've had the project website and other activities going on. Those are the locations for the pop-up workshops you can see around the city. So far, all of those workshops have produced about 57% of them were residents and 10% work or go to school in Santa Monica, and you can see the distribution of where those pop-up participants came from. So it's a good turnout. We've had over 500 surveys turned in, 224 think tank ideas. Lots of presentations. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but pretty much every board and commission that has something to say about parks and recreation in the city of Santa Monica. We've had what we call an online map survey, which was also very successful, and it was a way to get some specific data about locations of parks on the map of Santa Monica. That same map is available on your tables here this morning. This is what it looked like on screen, and people were able to place their markers. We had almost 80% were residents, and another quarter work or go to school in Santa Monica, and again, a very good distribution throughout the city by zip code. Over 1,600 respondents on that online map survey. So that was a really outstanding turnout. Usually you look for 500 or 600, so we basically tripled that number. And a total of 25,000 plus comments and ideas came out of it. So you can imagine that was a massive data assembly and organization process. And you'll see some of the results of that here. So what we've done is we took all of that content, we've organized it into 7 categories, and we call them major themes. And we're going to go through that with you this morning in the presentation. And then we're going to ask you to be able to comment on that, to validate those themes, make sure we didn't leave anything out, which is clearly possible, even though we've had over 2,000 people involved so far. We want to make sure we've interpreted things correctly, and there's always room to add more possibilities, more ideas. So we're calling it the emerging vision and key themes. This same list is at every table, and you don't have to read them now. I'm going to go through each of these 7, and we'll talk about it. I'll give you some sense of the key results, and then you'll be able to talk about it at the various tables. The first one of these was to enhance play for all, and basically that's what we mean by inclusive play and recreation. We want to make sure it serves all ages, all abilities, people with and without disabilities, children, age groups, racial, ethnic groups, cultural activities that fit everybody's preferences and values. And that was a pretty strong result from what we've heard so far. You can see that what do people mean when they say recreation? 86% in the online map survey said it means getting outdoors and interacting with the beach or with walking and biking or picnicking. You can see some of the things that people said in that survey. And they really want to make sure we distribute these facilities equitably across the entire city, so there's not one area benefiting more than others. To be inclusive of teens, seniors, toddlers, fitness, young children. We talked about gardens, food source, education, being inclusive with regard to sports and fitness, and all diverse users and uses. A lot of flexibility, comments about making things multi-purpose and multi-objective. And then what we show here, just some illustrations, and these are also up on the boards on each of the walls around the room, and we just highlight some of what that could look like. And some of these could be in Santa Monica, and some of them are. You'll see a range of pictures here from parks and places that we've designed throughout the country, and others have. This is in San Antonio, Texas. Hemisphere Park voted the best play park in San Antonio 2 years in a row. It opened in 2015, I believe. So a really successful effort. Here's your own Ishihara Park, which was a made park based on excess right-of-way left over from the metro line coming in. And you see some ways in which cities have adapted and attempted to create multi-varied and flexible play experiences. Some of those are illustrated here. The second key category was to rethink streets that have park potential. And that doesn't mean every street, but I think you've seen already here in Santa Monica that there are streets that would lend themselves to some creative uses. And as you'll see in the information that we've collected so far, why do people use the parks? When they say, I use them a lot, the reason they do is because they say it's close to home. And the second reason is they can get there safely and easily. So what that says to us is access and location and proximity are very important in terms of increasing the use of parks by our residents. So we want to do things that can improve that proximity and access. So for example, what we see is that in the online survey, 45% of the people that use the parks frequently do so by driving or getting a ride to the park, whereas 30% walk, 20% use bike or skate, and rideshare and transit are quite low by comparison. So we're thinking that we should find a way to use the streets to increase the connectivity from the neighborhoods to existing parks, small, medium, large, as well as the beach. And that is where this particular category comes from. People said we could create a network of green streets to better access parks and facilities, create green everywhere, unconventional locations. You know, we can find space, small, medium, large, micro, nano scale, whatever it takes, these micro tiny parklets, all of that helps to create a sense of safety, connectivity, and increases the desire for people to walk from their home to a park. So we can even think about streets on a temporary basis to function that way as well. And some of the examples here, this actually is New York City, where they turned this median, which would otherwise unusable, into a linear park. And then it also becomes a bikeway, a pedestrian connection to get people to some of the other larger facilities. Here we are in Santa Monica and some of the places where you've also applied the parklets idea to achieve that same kind of continuity, and it can be on a temporary basis or a more permanent basis depending on the situation. Here's some of the other things that could be done to increase community gardens and using that street sidewalk, that area that otherwise would be devoted to vehicles, or it's maybe unused, and we can turn it into a more productive use. And there are many examples of that from different cities here in California and elsewhere. The next thing people talked a lot about was increasing or fostering social interaction. And that is one of the reasons why people want to be out and visit the park facilities. They do so for physical activities, to make social connections at meetings or community events, or in other ways to participate in the life of the community. So that's something we heard quite strongly through the various outreach activities. The idea of neighborhood scale festivals, big and small, food and live performances are very important to people as a way to program the parks, make them more comfortable, more interesting. Art and food and classes are all part of that. And you can see a lot of these areas reinforce and overlap. The categories are very robust in that sense. And some of the things that no doubt you all participate in, we've got the benefit of a world-class beach system. This is a park that we worked on, and by the way, I was at the 11th Pavilion in MacArthur Park just the other day, Thursday night. They have those free conferences, free concerts, and that park has been totally transformed. And the reason given is because of that programming. So it really creates a sense of safety and activity. People attract more people, and it does in fact create that sense of desire to be there. And some of the other images here help to display how that could work. And again, temporary, mobile, and movable facilities can be one of the ways that we increase the usability of our parks and facilities, and to get unprogrammed space that animators or play leaders can also utilize on an ad hoc basis. People also talked about green infrastructure, which is very important now when we think about water quality and just the fact that we have so much hard surface, impermeable surfaces. We'd like to find ways to increase the water flow and bring nature back to the city, improve the environment, and reduce heat effects. And this is a quote from some of the people responding on the survey that's representative. We need parks that contribute to sustainability and reduce the impacts of climate change. So there are lots of multiple benefits that can be achieved if we think creatively about the public realm. And that's what we mean by green infrastructure, a network of green streets, or helping people to take a stewardship role or caretaking role in making their neighborhoods more environmentally sustainable with more trees and landscaping. Again, using native plants. All of these things help to contribute to a more healthy and human-oriented environment. And some of the examples right here in Santa Monica are displayed on the screen. The beach restoration project is a good example of that, trying to bring back native beach vegetation that will ultimately rely on less water and less care, less maintenance, less management. And there's a lot of room for improving and expanding the opportunities for green infrastructure. We talk about park and beach experiences as another major theme or category that we heard. Frequency of park use, you can see a lot of people go to parks well over 50% of the sample once a week or even several times a month. Very few don't visit at all. So that indicates there's quite a high usage already. We're always looking for ways to do more. The beach use is also very common with our online map survey respondents. Almost 40% go to the beach at least once a week. That's a pretty significant city and community resource right there. And the most popular facility, the Annenberg Beach House. So that came up really high on people's list. 70% of the online sample, so that's 70% of 1,600 people, said they visited there at least once in the past 2 years or more. So that's a pretty high frequency of visitation for sure. And they often go because they're close to home, or as we said earlier, because it's somewhat easy to get to. So we're always looking for ways that we can increase the access and connectivity. So some of the ideas that people brought up, developing more partnerships within the city and with other community-based organizations, in fact, expanding classes and facilities, better use of resources, again, activities with food and live performances, some of the small tweaks that make a big difference, like more shade, lighting, restroom improvements, those creature comforts that we need to feel comfortable at these park facilities. We'll get more use and a better turnout at all of our recreation programs as well. Here's an activity going on at our Santa Monica Beach, and you can see the effect of programming and bringing in loose parts like this is a very good way to encourage use and to get different people down there. Dogs are everywhere, as we know, and you can't do enough, it seems, to help with this group. You can see, here's an example of a local watering spot. Very popular with the dogs. You know, they get there, they meet, they talk, and you can see there's a lot of social interaction there. And, you know, using our trails, little niches and corners of the park and trail system can be used productively for recreation and really tap into all ages here, from young to old and old to young. And some of the ways that we do this could also inspire local artists to come out and talk about and try to represent community identity of neighborhoods, to tell the story of Santa Monica and the various neighborhoods. This is a great opportunity to bring the cultural arts community into the picture as well. And we've worked over time with community artists and play animators in gardening, very popular with children to learn about nutritious food and how to grow food and how to improve their overall long-term health. These are major trends, and we're all working in these same directions. I think this group here today and everybody we talk to in the various activities are very strong on these sort of activities. So design parks and programs with safety in mind was a strong theme. John mentioned it in his early remarks, and he was right on the money there. We're trying to find ways to do this compassionately and systematically. And why is this an important element? Well, in our MAP survey, 84% expressed concerns about homelessness as a barrier to even more park use. So we know that's an issue. And then right up there next to it, not quite as strong as that one, but still important, concerns about safe travel from their home to the park, wherever that may be. So again, coming back to that theme of connectivity from neighborhood and home to park. These are important issues, so we want to have people using our parks. It makes them safer, it makes them more functional, and we get more value for the community in the long term. So we're hoping that through our partnerships with other agencies and departments within the city, we can address homelessness. We can find these partnerships. We've been successful at doing that in other communities. We hope that'll be an element here in our planning. We want to create safe connections for bicyclists and pedestrians to get to the parks and the beach. We talked about lighting and expanded park hours with people and staff there to help create that sense of safety. We have the downtown ambassadors. They've been very successful in helping to get people downtown and to be part of that environment. We need to think about those same techniques as we move forward in our park system. And we all know when you see a bunch of people here, you feel safer, you're attracted there, people attract more people, and that's something we'd like to see as well. And these are all of the ingredients for success. You know, one of the well-known urban sociologists, William White, way back when, like 40 years, this book is still valid, The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces. He studied with time-lapse photography what people do in the parks in New York, and he observed that people will be there if there's places to sit, if there's music or performance going on. When people see other people, they're drawn to it. Food is a big motivator. Water, the sound of water, all of those things help to motivate and create that sense of safety. And we're talking about parks at all hours of the day, too. Lighting. We know lighting does improve the sense of safety and security because you can see your path through, you can see what's going on, and you're more inclined to walk through that environment than if it was poorly lit and it was hard to see around corners and things like that. Another big area, I know we have some people interested in this, just guessing, but it was a theme in our outreach, and again, we want to continue the discussion of this here this morning, creating new parkland. Very hard to do in a relatively built-out city like Santa Monica. But let's talk about what we heard on the online map survey. 26% of the pinned ideas that we got related to the airport park future expansion. Some other ideas, you know, the decking of Freeway 10, and more trees in the median, more landscaping. So there's a lot of ways we can do it with big, medium, and little spaces here and there. And some of those things, unconventional locations, network of green streets to connect neighborhoods to the parks, to the beach, etc. Park space with micro tiny parks. Again, some of these themes that keep coming up or comments help to reinforce the different themes. Temporary neighborhood serving parks. This again is Santa Monica. This is a very famous park. It is a very small space. It's like 1/4 the size of this room, called Paley Park in New York, and people love it. It's often judged one of their favorite parks in all of New York City because of the intimacy, the wall of water that screens out noise. It acts as a white noise factor, and you feel like you've escaped the bustle and hustle of the city of New York there. It's pretty interesting. And movable tables and chairs, these are all the ingredients that William White talked about in his book, The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces. This is a great example of that. Or on a larger scale, our parks here. This is very interesting. This is Clyde Warren Park in where? City of Dallas, car-centric Dallas, decided to take this Woodall-Rogers Freeway, which loops around the north side of the downtown, and they built this lid over it, and here's the result. It is now one of the most popular parks in Dallas, and it's heavily programmed as well as informal. Concessions out here, beautiful design, very well done, but it's expensive. It's not a cheap process, so I'm not saying we have to do it. It's up to you, but it does show it's possible with the right conditions, and the value has certainly been shown there in the city of Dallas. And there's a lot of public-private partnerships in and around this to fund the park, not only the construction of it, but the ongoing operations, maintenance, and management of this park. So it can be done with a big community effort as well. This is Orange County Great Park, as it's called. And this was a military base, turned into what is now a big park in that county to the south, and quite successful. Still in stages of programming. It's evolving. It's a huge area, and I suspect it'll take years to phase that in. This is Tempelhof in Germany. They actually decided, just left the runway there. They didn't They figured people could use the open space, and maybe over time it'll get more programmed and more activities, but you can see already people are using it to good effect just by not using it as an airport at this point. So a lot of things can be done on a fairly limited basis. Speaking of the airport, here are all the things people have mentioned to a large degree, and I'm sure you've heard those conversations, and it will be a while to get that sorted out and to figure out how best to use that. We're not going to design it today, we're not going to answer it all today, but we certainly would like to hear your ideas along those lines. So, we're going to get into the interactive discussions. I know that's a lot of information. All of it will again be online for you to download and study in more detail. But today the most important thing is to hear the tables, to have you get into this discussion and to work with our team to get more ideas on the table, and most importantly to make sure that what we've been organizing here makes sense, and this could form the framework and structure for the future master plan update. So it's basically 2 exercises. We want you to look at the vision and the themes and give us your feedback on that and any additional points that we might have left out. And then we're going to have an initial prioritization exercise. It's not too early to start to get a sense of what's the most important thing, the second most important thing, and the third most important thing. And it just gives us some ideas at this early juncture of the master plan. And so with that, we want you to get right into it and to take advantage of the materials around the table. I want to also have a big round of applause for our staff and consultant team. They put all this together. They did a fantastic job. And we want you to take off and let it go. Here we go. Interactive tables, the flip charts are coming out, and we'd love to hear your ideas. Thank you very much for your attention. So with that, we're going to start with table 12. Table 12, if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll get underway. So go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Gavin Scott, speaking on behalf of table 12. And I'll speak as fast as I can while hopefully being comprehensible. So enhanced play for all was one of the themes that came up at this table. The opportunity to do whatever you are passionate about, and the idea of having focuses for different parks. One of our members suggested, for example, a place where butterflies would naturally congregate, I guess because of the trees and things, so that was the butterfly place in the park. Another person at the table was really enthusiastic, as many people are, about ice skating, the opportunity for ice rinks as a popular growing sport, and the suggestion that I feel most strongly about is the idea of incorporating an element of whimsy and the unexpected in the park. So you get things like a pirate castle that kids can play in and use for their own imagination. Unexpected structures in parks. So that was one thing to enhance play for all. Rethinking the streets. For example, the median strip on San Vicente, making it a more usable space and easier of access. Pocket parks, particularly turning the area of 4th and 5th Street as a wonderful opportunity, 4th, 5th Street in Arizona, as that being a marvelous opportunity for a new park. And any streets that don't have through traffic, that using them as an opportunity for small new parks. Green infrastructure. One of our people really urged us to create places where kids could grow their own food on schoolyards or nearby schools, so that instead of having sugary snacks, they eat carrots they've grown themselves. And we all thought that was a good idea. Everybody wanted more trees, especially in schoolyards where there's too much asphalt and not enough greenery. And green cul-de-sacs wherever possible, with living walls. Which everyone liked the idea of. We dealt with the issue of safety ambassadors at the park, and when new parks are developed, that they should be structured with safety in mind. More volunteers. We all felt that this was a great opportunity to incorporate, especially older and retired people who'd like to donate some of their time to be in parks to help them to be safe places, to guide kids so that they don't indulge in dangerous play, to report to the authorities if there are people misusing the parks, but also create a sense of community, because that gives old people a chance to actually contribute and make the parks better places to be. Also, emergency call boxes were suggested as a way of alerting the authorities if things go wrong. We all felt there was a great need to create new parkland, especially north of Montana, but specifically the airport park, the need for the community to come together and say, we must seize this opportunity to create a great park at the airport and get around the vested interests who don't want it to happen. And art. Incorporate more art. Keep up the good work that Santa Monica has done with creating interesting art in parks, and just give those parks that special quality. Priorities: airport park, more neighborhood parks, building indoor facilities. Yes, there was an emphasis on some indoor facilities for gymnastics and indeed the ice rink concept as well. So we all really appreciated the opportunity to throw our ideas in, and hope this whole exercise is a great success. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Very well done. All right. Let's go right to this next table. Delia, right here. Let's take this one. We're going, table 11 is ready to go. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Well, we had a very lively discussion at our table, and I think that this little chart can actually summarize our conversation. But our highest priorities overall that were voiced here were to create new neighborhood parks. Really those that are in walking distance to our homes, that are easily accessible, that we don't spend more time getting to them than being at them. So that was a big part of it. The group really is supportive of transforming airport into a park. Additionally, we really wanted to have enhanced play and unstructured opportunities, building out an urban forest, a place where kids could just really relax and have creative play. And then the opportunity, like, bring back that old rec coordinator who brings out the games and activates the space and has opportunities for the kids to play. More playgrounds and these things. Oh, and Fifth in Arizona, like the other group, there's a opportunity there. And then ultimately, just want to reiterate that the big concern that everyone at the table really wanted to have addressed is how to access parks so that it doesn't take as much time to get there, okay, so that you can actually enjoy it.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Well done. And moving right over to table 2.
We're table 10, actually.
10, sorry.
So we also had a lively discussion, and the biggest takeaways...
Closer, hold it closer.
The biggest takeaways are that we felt like access wasn't addressed in the emerging themes, but then within the other themes that were on the sheet, we felt like we wanted to specify multi-use facilities and fields, pop-up parks and small-scale parks, but keeping still the big parks like Airport Park the Airport Conversion Park and the freeway capping as a long-term goal. And then increasing the urban forest and canopy with landscaping, and particularly adding landscaping in the red zone curbs, and then lining the streets with fruit trees in that process. And then mobility and safety and connections to parks, planned group programs and education for seniors, outside, not just inside our park facilities, and field trips, and then adding concessions and lightings to our parks to make them feel more safe and comfortable and for use at night. And then more gardens of all kinds, and to be an inclusive city, but our overall theme of our discussion was safety.
All right, very good, thank you. Thank you, table 10. So how about the one way back there in the corner? Yes, please. Okay.
Hi, our table, we summarized some of our highlights that we discussed. One was more park space that's accessible for all, and it must be inclusive. Something else that we spoke about was different parks with different functions. So we talked about the idea of having neighborhood versus regional parks. when we prioritize our cards, most of everyone at our table prioritized A. That was their number one, which was to create a large-scale park. We talked about models for the airport park. We talked about Central Park as a model. We also talked about Grand Park in downtown LA because of the various activities and events available there. Something else that we discussed was maximizing the functionality of current existing park space. We discussed the fact that Santa Monica is underparked. Underutilized inland beach space that could be used in added canopy and green space. And also we did have a big discussion around safety, understanding the importance of safety without creating an us versus them mentality, and we were particularly discussing the issue of homelessness. And then also adding additional security at the parks that we have.
Okay, once again, thank you. Very nice work. Moving on to our next table right here. Yes, please.
Hi, we were table 9, and we had a great discussion. I don't think we necessarily came to consensus on everything, but we had a lot of different viewpoints. And so in terms of safety, there was a lot of concern about homelessness and making sure that there's eyes on the park so people feel comfortable using those spaces, activating them with programming so that there's more people there. In terms of optimizing what we have, we had a lot of people who were interested in maintaining and programming the current spaces that we have in the community, making them, some of them being multifunctional or some of them being for a specific type of use. We had a little bit of a debate about that. We were looking at increasing shade opportunities along the beach, potentially with some temporary shade structures, to make it more appealing to those of us who don't want to get a lot of sun. We want to focus on fixing what we have, maintaining things. There was a discussion about the permitting system being challenging and making it, creating a barrier to use for residents, in particular aging residents who want to use the field space that we have. Adding additional classes and yoga into our parks. We wanted just more opportunities for people watching and just being able to sit and be part of a community and have that feeling. We also looked at creating connectivity, especially for those who are transit dependent, to be able to get to parks. People don't want to have to drive across the community. They want something that's walkable. We also talked about creating additional pocket parks, small neighborhood parks. There was a lot of discussion about the airport park. Some people at the table were interested in preserving the existing uses along Airport Avenue and maintaining that as a historical, cultural arts district. Other people were interested in capping the freeway. And we just want a lot more green, less hardscape, more greenery in our parks.
Right, okay, good, thank you. Nice work. And again, don't forget to leave all your comment cards, the placemats. We're going to total all that up and make it available as a summary of today's workshop. Go ahead, sir.
Great, thank you. So we had a great discussion here at our table as well, and I've summarized some of our points for us. The first one was about the play experiences, and we discussed a lot about a variety of play experiences, whether they be more challenging or adventure play, as they mentioned over there. The ability for our youth to be creative with their minds. And mobile experiences too, moving experiences across the city in a mobile way. We also talked about the need for connectivity, and we talked heavily about biking opportunities and safety, and the parking of the bikes was also something that we talked about. In regards to the green space, we thought we don't have much left, but we need to optimize all of the green space that we have, the opportunities for that. And again, like I mentioned, safety came up numerous times throughout our discussion. It was probably our biggest theme of the day. Our group was in favor of both converting the airport and capping the 10 freeway. We thought that there was a need for more concessions in our public spaces so people could socialize and be together, and the need for more localized events. Again, the connectivity is important to us, and that we need to think big because this is a 20-year plan, so there should be no barriers holding us back.
Thank you.
All right, good. Let's give a hand to that table for their contributions. Thank you. Moving on to table 7.
Hi. The first topic that came up at our table was homelessness at the parks, and it's not an easy topic, and there's no easy solutions, but it was the major concern. Also somewhat of crime. Now, not everybody at our table agreed that the airport park or the airport should be shut down, but it is an opportunity for more park space. Other opportunities for park space would be capping the freeway and 4th, 5th in Arizona. Someone at our table suggested, and we all kind of agreed, that when we do have open green spaces, some of it needs to be unstructured and unprogrammed and just a wild vegetative state. And this, can also be areas for butterflies, birds, bees, etc.
Hopefully that doesn't mean we're in a vegetative state, but okay.
Well, maybe it's to allow you to get into a vegetative state, yes.
Okay.
We also are concerned about getting some equal distribution of parks throughout the city. There are areas of the city that really don't have parks, and it's difficult in a built-out city, but any land that the city does own should be looked at for those purposes. A major concern amongst all of us was safe and easy access to the beach, which is our city's major big open space park, and from the mid-city area, it is really difficult to get down there on a bike. So some way of getting to the beach, and then even once you are there, it's great that the city has started to build some boardwalks out across the sand, but to create more of those for more access, easier access to the actual shoreline. And then also it seems that the volleyball courts have kind of spread out across that whole, they kind of almost create like a barrier reef to getting across the sand. So maybe a reorganization of those structurally so that you don't reduce the number of them, but create more open pathways to the beach. Then there was a desire for a balance of park activities. We definitely want more shades throughout the entire city and in the various parks. And that includes filling all of our empty tree wells. We have empty tree wells, over 2,000 of them throughout the city. Down at the beach, people have raised concerns. They want to know if we could get a dog park in down at the beach, maybe at the southern end. Also, perhaps expanding the bike path, making it, and I know the city is actually working on this, on the north side of the pier, separating bikes and pedestrians, having another path for that, especially with the scooters. Maybe they'll geofence themselves out, we hope. Then also, let's see, we kind of did all these. Also the San Vicente Boulevard median could be landscaped a little better. People use it already as kind of a jogging, walking path, and maybe that needs to be maintained in a better way and streetscaped a little better to encourage more of that, and that would be more at the north end of our town. Overall, we want to expand the urban forests, create some large-scale parks, again, 4th, 5th Arizona, and I think that pretty much covers what we had time for.
Very good. Excellent report. Thank you. Table 7, let's give them our thanks. And then moving on over here to table 6. Okay, we're going in any order here. That's fine.
Table 6. Thank you. When we're looking at all these, I know that we have our board here and everything, but on each one of the major topics, each one of the major topics, certainly safety should be in every one of those topics.
Right.
We definitely have a lot, everything started with that as a conversation and then went there from there. We also agree that more is more. So cap the freeway, airport park, but don't stop there. Don't wait for that magical day to come, because we should be in the process of continuing to try to acquire park space even now. We had the benefit of having a longtime member of the Parks and Rec Commission board here, and he mentioned the anecdote of Fisher Lumber. When we had the opportunity to buy it, we didn't, and then years later we bought it for more than it cost the first time around. We need to be acquiring land because the airport thing,
Yeah.
We want it to happen. What if it doesn't happen? You know, what if the cap the freeway never happens? We don't have any net new fields, and we need net new fields, net new parks, net new everything.
Okay, thank you.
So safety over, and then one of the big themes throughout all of these topics was the danger that this city in particular has in overspending, over-planning, overbuilding something. Don't let the great be the enemy of the good. If every pocket park costs $5 to $10 million, we're not going to get a lot of pocket parks. If every, the Memorial Park thing, we're spending a ton of money to rebuild Memorial Park, but we're not getting net new fields. Things like that. No net new tennis courts, no net new gym space. So that would be another cautionary tale, would be like, don't let us overthink this. A dog park doesn't have to have public art. It could just be a dog park, for instance. No, I'm serious. We need more dog parks, right?
Dogs
any
are
other major themes?
pretty easy to please with us.
Okay, so those are some of our major themes. I know we're running out of time, but
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Table 6. Very good. Moving on. Yes.
Thanks. So here at our table, we talked about
Keep
a lot
it
of different
close.
things. So to summarize some of our ideas, we were in favor of the airport park idea and all the different opportunities that could go there. As far as the existing parks, we talked about the importance of having multiple uses. So not like the specialized different areas, but thinking about how can the existing areas have different uses, layering of uses, more amenities to be used by different people, different activities throughout the day. We also wanted to see a lot more greenery, a lot more trees, both in our parks and throughout the entire city, but also very aware of the intense water uses and needs for that. And so thinking about, how are we going to maintain our landscaping and our greenery, through smart water usage. We also talked about the importance of parks as gathering places and how that can be accomplished through having more food in the parks, food trucks, coffee shops. Those are the things that bring people together. How can we incorporate more of those? And also thinking about the smaller activities. Things don't have to be always the large, once a year events, but what are the small activities, small events that can really activate those places? And also thinking about how to incorporate cozy gathering spaces for, in the existing parks, in newer parks as well. And throughout all of this, again, like some of the other groups mentioned, the cost has to be thought of. How can we do things more cost effectively? And then climate change as well. Throughout all of this, again, thinking about water usage, thinking about greens, and how can we use parks as a lesson, for people about climate change.
All right, good. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our last 4, the final 4. Go ahead, sir.
So listening to every other group, we have a lot of similar key points, but to go over ours, more senior interaction, whether that's transportation, outdoor activities, such as lawn bowling, but programming for all ages, including early childhood age bracket, more playing fields, but as much as there is importance for having programmed space, also an unprogrammed space in all the parks is a highlight of our table. Connectivity, 2 parks for all modes of transportation, bikes, scooters, everything that might be coming in, and making sure that those ways are safe. Increased facilities and infrastructure at our parks, such as community rooms, lighting, so activities can kind of go into the night if they're not available during the day, and bathrooms. Beach protection was a huge one. That is a big asset that our city has and not everyone does, and to make sure that is being used and saved is extremely important. And then, as with everyone, kind of an overarching theme of safety in the infrastructure, potentially having a larger presence of park rangers at the park to kind of enhance that safety aspect. So all of our parks are inviting to everyone.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Right here is next in line. Thank you.
All right, table 3 started our conversation off on the theme of safety and really wanting to kind of clarify what that word meant, that there was a sense that you should feel safe in parks, you should feel secure in parks, but we should not mean parks that are so safe that kids can't get a skinned knee because the playground is designed for, by lawyers. So there was definitely a thought that that word needs to be clarified. That led, or kind of that theme sort of reoccurred in our discussions about the educational opportunities of playgrounds and the park space, that definitely we should be maximizing those characteristics of parks. And then in terms of some of the other ideas that this table came up with in our conversation that needed to be included, is we strongly support the idea of an off-leash dog beach. That was like definitely one of the big ideas that we wanted to put on the table.
Dog beach.
Dog
okay.
beach.
There
Big
we go.
second choice for that. Another idea that hadn't come up in other discussions was an intergenerational playground. Our representative from the school district is very excited about going out onto the playground. And not necessarily on one of the elementary schools, but one just for him. Let's see. And then when we ranked we did the ranking exercise, almost everybody put category A, the build new parkland either over the freeway or at the airport, in their top 5, and everybody put in a need, played some card that indicated a need for new parks, whether it was new neighborhood parks, et cetera. So definitely going back to the comment, more is more. There was a feeling here that we needed more park space. And then there was also a discussion about really optimizing the streets and alleyways and other passages to build a kind of completely integrated network of green space that would sort of link all those places, so even as you're walking around the street, you could have that sense of being in the park. And then one last point is the Civic Auditorium should be included as kind of a recreational, educational opportunity as part of this conversation, and that was a pretty strong point from a few members of our table.
All right, thank you guys. All right, well done. Let's move on to this group.
Okay, table 2, very diverse and lively conversation over on table 2. So I'll go real quick through the categories. Number 1, enhance the play for all, play and use. We thought the play/use was really important, opportunity for all, and all abilities and skills. So young, old, of all abilities. Rethink the streets and medians. Great opportunity on Main Street between Pico and Colorado. And then also being careful of placement of the parklets. And not all parklets work well in all locations. So careful analysis of that. Item 3, real interesting, green infrastructure. We had quite a debate between artificial turf fields and natural turf fields. And kind of the pros and cons of both as far as green infrastructure. So maybe just a rethinking of maybe some of the new fields could be natural turf. Safety in the park was really big. One of the things we talked about is having the emergency kiosk in every park. So if someone was fearful of something, they could push a button and response would get there very quickly. We really like that one. Rotating pop-ups in parks to just change from one day to another, a new activity. Creating new parklands, start planning for the great park right away. We had kind of both sides of the overlay, and then a lot of folks talked about the 4th and 5th in Arizona on the city-owned land. And lastly, social interactions. We talked about adding cultural and historical aspects of the community in the parks. We talked a little bit about the picture of the small place in New York with the waterfall. Not a real big place, but where people interact. And then markers in the parks, just memorializing historic.
Very good. Thank you, guys. Let's give them all our thanks. And then finally, our last table. Go ahead.
Last and most awesome table 1. So we had a really great, diverse group of folks of ages and interests, residents and non-residents as well. So yes, 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 and yes to everything that's been said around safety and using the space that we have. Some of the key things that came out was really focusing on space that is usable by all ages, so that there's intergenerational use. Grandparents and their kids, parents and their children can all do things, activities together. Safe connectivity, so not just having access to all the different parks and beaches, but really making sure those are safe for folks to use at all times of the day and night. And then really keeping the eye on the big picture. This is a 20-year plan, so let's not just go for the easy little projects here and there, but really make progress towards these big picture ideas like the airport park and 4th and Arizona, which was a recurring theme here. One of the areas of a little bit of heated debate was around the use of park space and having events, regional versus residents. And so one of the things that we talked about was how do we incentivize residential use without excluding a regional welcoming of folks from outside of Santa Monica. And then a unique idea that I hadn't heard before, we talk a lot about capping the freeways, but Liz here had an idea of what if we capped the beach parking lots and created deck space where there could be cafe and seating so that people could enjoy the beach and the beach view in a more interactive way.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. And let's thank all of the presenters and all of the tables for your work today. I want to acknowledge Lauren and Genevieve. They tried to keep a quick summary. That is just the beginning of our summary from today. I want to thank you all for coming out, spending your Saturday morning with us. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next workshop. Have a great day. Thank you.